You got a commodity that you're selling that's not going to go away. You will always have buyers, you will always have sellers, and you will always have uncertainty. And to me, the real estate agent is not being paid for the transaction. The agent is being paid to eliminate the uncertainty. Because once I'm certain, I sell, and once I'm certain, I buy.
Right. A confused mind will always say no.
Exactly. It will always say no. It will always find out a reason to say no. It will never tell you the truth, by the way. A confused mind never tells the truth. Buyers are not liars. Confused minds are liars. They make up all these reasons why they don't, because they're confused. If you're confused, how could you possibly tell me the price is too high? You wouldn't know. You'd be confused.
Hey ladies and gentlemen, real quick, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I want to welcome you to the community. My name is Jimmy Webb Jr., and if you are a real estate agent looking to double your business, well, this is the channel that helps you do that. So go ahead and subscribe right now and tap the bell for notifications so that you can be the first to learn about the latest strategies that are working the best in today's market. I'm also helping a lot of top brokers, team leaders, and other agents partner with us at eXp, and we're having an absolute blast doing it. So listen, I'm an open book. So if you want to get a hold of me, shoot me a text, send me an email, or schedule a call with me below, and I've got your back when making the move to eXp. Now, these conversations with Glenn and Grant are going to happen every couple of weeks. So if you want to be the first to catch this content, well, you know what to do. But if you want to be on live with us and take part in the Q&A like we're doing in a couple of weeks, then you got to be with us at eXp. So again, reach out if you're interested in partnering with us. But without further ado, let's get over to the fireside chat with Glenn and Grant.
Hey everyone, Glenn Sanford here, and I am here with my new good friend, Grant Cardone, all the way from Miami, Florida. I recognize your office. I've been in your office, which is awesome. And I'm as far away in the United States as I can be, which is right up on the northwest corner of Washington State. So we're like at corner to corner. But super excited about today, our first official, conversation, after our agreement got inked. So we got that all put together and all dialed in. But first, thanks for the book, Sell or Be Sold. I know that it's been downloaded now by, I'm not sure the total number of downloads, but I know it's hundreds, if not thousands of agents have already downloaded it, started to listen to it. We've actually got it up on Workplace. So it's actually, we're broadcasting it into a Workplace group. I know I've invited Jared into the group, and technically you've got an invite as well. So hopefully we get you dialed in and can be part of the group officially, as opposed to just broadcasting in. But super excited. But Grant, thanks for jumping on here this morning.
Glenn, look, I know I'm always going to be better after spending time with you. I consider you a friend. I'm super excited about our relationship growing over the, I'm sure many years, and I'm a good judge of character. So I know I'm really super optimistic about just our relationship and friendship, and also with what you're going to do with eXp and how I can help, and the unbelievable people that I know we're going to attract, and all the friendships and relationships that will come out of this. And I think I'm trying to figure out how to see you while you're in Cabo.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Brandon, he's got his event, and then Brent Gove, who's is just a beast here at eXp, yep. Growing eXp. He's got an event down in Cabo, so I wasn't actually planning on going down, but once there was like two events, I was like, and then potentially get a chance to see you and Elena and connect. I mean, it's like it can't not go.
So. Yeah. So when that much action and that much power goes to one place, I'm like, I want to go get some of that.
There you go. So. I'm now second time into the book, Sell or Be Sold. So first time I started to listen to it actually before our engagement came together. So I was actually listening to it fairly fast. I had it like at 1.5 to 2.0 on the speed, because I'm like going, I want to get this cranked in here just to, get some content. Now I'm going through it a little bit slower the second time around, but what an amazing book. And as I could tell, even coming into this meeting, one of the principles I think you have in there is always be busy. And so always keep moving and keeping things in motion, because it's as long as you stay in motion, it's hard not to be productive.
I always say, look, the devil's in the white space. If you want to meet the devil, you don't need to die. All you need to do is take enough time off.
Right.
And the mind will start wandering to all kind of unproductive things and ideas and, bad habits. And so, like, I love the momentum. One of the reasons I was so excited about eXp was the amount of momentum that you've created here over the last 5 years, particularly over the last 12 or 18 months, has been just phenomenal. And so I'm looking forward to the ride.
Oh yeah, well, I just got off a podcast. Actually, I think it'll be broadcast next week. But there's a publication called Real Trends, and they looked at our 5-year growth rate, and we, as a company, we grew 3,680% over 5 years. So 3,680%.
Wow.
And they said that they've never seen a company grow organically, that fast ever in the history of residential real estate. So we kind of blew away sort of their growth numbers to date, and we're going to keep the pedal to the metal, and that's why this engagement is so important and impactful for eXp, because we're saying, hey, we've been growing fast, but let's grow faster, and so it's
it's interesting, because I was with a guy yesterday. His name's Orrin Alexander. He's a real estate agent here in Miami. He's a big time real estate agent here, and we were flying down to look at some properties and on the same.
Oh yeah, I saw a little video of him on the helicopter.
Yeah, I was landing in that field and the dust. I'm like, get out of here! This is too much. It's not good for the engine. So, but he told me, he's like, hey, tell me the deal with eXp. And I said, well, you tell me what you think. And he's like, and this is a top guy. He's like, eXp is doing what other groups said they might do and never did. And he gave me a couple names of groups, and he's just like, they are going to do what needs to be done in our industry. It'll be great for real. I literally let him do the talking rather than me do the selling. Sell or be sold.
Right.
And so he just starts pitching me on eXp. He's like, man, they're going to do for real estate agents. It's going to be good for real estate agents. It's going to be good for networking. It'll be good because they get equity. Like, it's a way for a guy to literally build a shop without having the physical liabilities of a shop. And he just went on and on. So who knows? Maybe he'll join the team too.
Well, it sounds like he's already sold himself.
58% of the way there.
There you go. So Jared was telling me a little bit about the story around Sell or Be Sold. So how did it come to be? How did it come about? I think it.
Yeah. So this book was written. I don't know if I have the first copy of it. It was actually not called this in the beginning. It was called Sell or Survive, and it was 2008. I think it was 2008. The economy had just collapsed. Lehman had just announced that they were dead. I had $1 million invested in Lehman stock. I stole Lehman stock, and the next day it's zero, and because it just fell right off the cliff. And
right.
And I was watching TV in Los Angeles with Elena. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I remember the images of people walking out of Lehman with empty boxes. All these people had been fired and let go. The company had collapsed. It's like a 158-year-old company, stable company in America, had just fell apart. And Elena, my face went white because she's like, what's happening? She knew there was terror. And the global contraction hadn't happened yet. And she's like, what's happening? And I'm like, we're getting ready to die. The true story, I've said, we're going to die. This is going to be ugly. This is going to be terrible. Like every one of our businesses is going to be messed up and disrupted, and people are going to be left off of work, and people are going to lose their homes, and we're going to have problems, right? And I was terrified. Financially, I was very scared. We had one baby on the way, and Elena looked at me and says, what are you going to do about it? It wasn't what are we going to do about it? It was what are you going to do about it?
Right.
You know? And I said, okay, I have to, it's those moments where you're like, I have to pivot now. 3 hours later, I wrote this book. I finished in my office. Literally at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at 4:15, I walked out. I said, I got a book. I called McGraw-Hill. McGraw-Hill says, no, nobody's buying a book right now. The world's getting ready to come apart. So I immediately finished the product. Then I made a phone call to see if I had any interest in publishing. There was zero interest. I called another group, zero interest. We self-published the book, had it printed in 30 days, and I was out selling it door to door. This book in the beginning because I rushed it, had hundreds and hundreds of misspelled words. It had a bad title, a bad cover. All that got reworked later. The book ends up winning the Axiom Award in 2012 for self-published books. We cleaned up all the grammaticals and everything. But before all the grammar and the misspelled words were cleaned up, we had sold literally tens of thousands of books. The average book in America sells a couple hundred copies. And even through 2008, 9, and 10, when nobody was buying anything, we were selling books to companies. Because basically what happened in that moment, as you know, you had to become a salesperson. You had chief operating officers and CEOs and VPs and bank owners, and administrators that got fired. Their next and only job was to go sell a product or a service. If you wanted money, you had to sell between 2008, 9, and 10 because the artificial money had been removed from the marketplace. Very, very similar to where we're at today if we had a correction.
Right. Well, as I've kind of told the team even back in 2009, 2010, our economy is being propped up by the Fed. And it's been propped up by the Fed ever since the housing collapse. And, so we're in a different economy. I think you've even talked about the fact that we'll go to negative interest rates, which I believe, that's probably where we're going to go. It's the only way you can finance the national debt and a bunch of other stuff. So, but it's just the new normal. It's not anything to be sort of, complaining about. Just it is what it is, and you work with it, and then you make things happen.
And that's where that title came from, Sell or Be Sold. What are you going to be sold on? The problem or the opportunity?
Right.
And then you have to stay sold into that moment, into that thing. You have to continue to sell yourself. This book's really not, a lot of people think it's about selling others, but the premise of the book is to stay sold on your vehicle, your product, and your service, and then that sale to others becomes easier. As I buy things is how I sell things. So I talk about it in here, like how you buy things, the length of time it takes you to sign up for eXp will either be an asset or a liability how you sign other people up.
Right. Yeah. How you start it makes all the difference.
Yeah, and it becomes your story, right? I don't want to sell. I want to sell authenticity. We hear this word all the time today. And a great salesperson will tell a story that is true that other people can relate to, and they'll be like, I can do that.
Right.
Not, hey, it's got this, this, and this. Because this is somewhere between this, and this, the feature benefit concept. If I got to go through every feature and every benefit, I'm probably going to move into deal fatigue.
Yep.
And go past the close. Past the decision phenomenon. We talk about the decision phenomenon in the book, where people actually make decisions to do or not do something before you even ask them.
Right. So one of the questions that Jared actually wrote down, and I want to ask this one, but he said he says the magic of agreement. What's that all about?
So the magic of agreement. I mean, in a sale, what you want is an agreement. I think people think they want a sale, but the truth is what you want is agreement, because agreement is the way to the sale.
Right.
If I have a no and I have a yes, right? They're just flip versions of each other.
Mm-hmm.
We've all had people that said yes that ended up changing our mind, and we've had people say no that ended up saying yes.
Right.
And so the way to get from no to yes is through agreement.
Right.
So somebody says, no, I don't want to do that. I'm saying, hey, I understand. I totally 100% understand you don't want to do it. And what I'm doing right there is I'm dissolving this no
Mm-hmm.
to an agreement. So I've
Right.
moved off of no. I want yes. They want no. We have a disagreement. So
Mm-hmm.
all I have to do to get agreement is the yes, is agree with the no for this
Right.
moment, for this second, for this microsecond. Yeah, I agree, man. I never make a rash decision either. By the way, while I'm saying that to him, I have every intention to get an agreement right now.
Right. Right. And in fact,
When the new now comes.
I think I've heard you say here recently, and I had to process it a few times to get it, but it was that even when somebody says no, they're interested.
100%. No interest. Like I got ragged in this one interview by this guy. Kept asking me, "What if they say no?" I said, "No interest. No is a level of interest.
Right.
0 is a number. The numerical system does not start with 1. It starts with 0.
Right. And as
Right?
long as there's a
So,
conversation and a dialogue and a communication.
exactly. Yeah. Do you want a cookie? No, I don't. Okay. Well, that's some level of interest. 0 level. 0 can only get bigger if I just stay with where they're at. Yeah, I totally understand. I used to not eat chocolate chip cookies either. I didn't like the chocolate. I didn't like the mix. I didn't like the flour, too much sugar. What's your reason for not liking them?
Right.
And then they tell me their reason for not liking. We exhaust the no until they're like, man, I do remember this one time where I had a chocolate chip cookie, man, it was freaking crazy good. And then now we're moving up from 0 to 10. 10 being, okay, I got to eat this thing, and I got to
Right.
buy some more, and I got to give them away to other people. So look, I've had people, some of my best customers have started with no's. Adamant, absolutely. Some of the people that love Grant Cardone the most actually started out as people that, like Damon John is a huge fan and friend of mine today. He will defend me anywhere. The first time he saw a video of me, he thought I was some kind of piece of garbage. Like he'll tell you, I thought I absolutely hated everything he stood for. And so what I needed to do with that in any relationship, whether you're trying to recruit somebody, sell somebody a house, get a listing, sell a house, get an agreement on a price lower than the seller expected, is agree with them. It's the power of agreement. I agree with you. I understand the price is lower than you wanted. I know the market's hot, whatever they're telling you. You
Right.
could probably wait another 13 months and get a number higher than that. And all I'm doing is exhausting all their objections by voicing their objections for them so they don't have to do any work.
Right.
You know, the magical agreement basically suggests that I am the seller and I do the job of the buyer.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. In fact, there's so much magic in that because ultimately they know that you understand them, you respect them. And so it's much easier for them to respect you and ultimately see the position that we're making in a way that benefits them. So it allows them to sort of shift their thinking.
Yes. Yeah. And have their point.
Right.
You know, because what happens is when somebody can't be right, then they demand to be right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I tell a kid they can't have sugar, the desire for sugar is going to get even greater.
Oh yeah, they've done tons of science experiments on that exact thing. Anytime you tell somebody they can't have it, what do they want? They want whatever you told them they can't have.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, I do this with my kids. I do it with customers. I've done it on $10 sales, and I've done it on charitable donations. I've done it on $100 million transactions. I'm doing a deal that office complex next up. They're like, man, you're not giving us the amount of money. You're right. I totally agree. By the way, not to make anybody feel bad, I offered you more money a year ago, and y'all told me no then. And I would love to pay you what you want. And by the way, I'm willing to do that if you're willing to fix that air conditioning problem that you guys neglected.
Right.
I'm willing to give you your price. You take care of that, and we're good to go. Or if you could somehow magically make it go away, I'm all with you. See, I'm still agreeing with them. I don't want to negotiate where I'm a barbarian. Where
Right.
I'm making them wrong. I want to make them right, and we come to an agreement.
Totally agree, and I think that's that's probably one of the things. Even when you and I started our conversations, it's like, well, what do you want? Okay, and it was and my way of thinking is anybody can have anything that they want. There's just a way. There's a way to get there. There's a way to get to anything. So, whether it be, if somebody wants to get into a house, if somebody wants to buy a house, sell a house, or they want to get a particular price, they want to do whatever, there's a way to get there. It may not be something they want to do, but there's a way to get there.
But many times the customer, I agree with you, by the way, but many times your customer, the seller or the buyer, is actually going to ask for something that no one can do, which means they don't get what they want either. So that's that the seller or the buyer, because really they're both sellers.
Right.
Whoever's trying to sell that thing, that idea, right? Sugar, popcorn, price, listing, not listing, waiting, not waiting, whatever, if you don't let them be right, they will make you wrong. And then in many cases make themselves wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because
they'll miss out on the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to wait and get a better price. Okay, I agree with you. I understand. If they're wrong about that and the market falls apart and you let them convince you not to, 9 months from now, they will not get a better price, which means you dropped. You didn't do your job. I didn't do my job. I didn't convince them to take a lower price now. Every real estate agent that's ever sold one house has had the situation where your first offer for that house was the highest you ever saw on that house. Everybody has that story. First offer was the best offer, and then boom, the market goes away, and nobody ever makes that offer again. So that's the salesperson's job, to make sure the buyer accepts that price, particularly in hot markets like we're in right now.
Now, there's obviously there's a difference between a professional and an amateur in real estate. And I think you talk about this quite a bit in the book. I think probably a third of the book talks about the difference between a professional and an amateur. So touch on a little bit of that. In fact, you're pulling out a quote there. I can tell.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now, page 21. It's the blackjack page. So there's a chapter 3 on the professional or the amateur. And many of you probably have heard me, because I know some people from eXp, when you were down here in Miami at the growth conference, a guy came up to me, he's like, man, I'm really surprised you did this thing with eXp. You're always trashing real estate agents. I said, no, I'm not always trashing real estate agents. He's like, oh yeah, you always are. Oh yeah, you're right about that. I'm trashing the amateurs.
Right.
And I'll trash the amateur waiter. I'll trash my kids if they're amateurs. I trash myself when I'm an amateur. If you're going to be a dilettante, if you're going to be a part-time, I'm just not a part-time person. Particularly in real estate. And I told my wife this the other night. I said, you got your license? Okay, good. You got your license. Now you need to learn the market. You need to know every house in this zip code. The ones for sale, the ones that did sell, the ones that fell out, the ones that sold a year ago. Elena, you have to know everything, not just what's available. You have to know every address, every square footage. You must become a professional, or you will be treated like an amateur. And the amateur, this is what how the amateur is treated. The buyer prospect will not show up. They won't give you exclusivity. They'll shop you. They'll have 6 brokers rather than 1. They won't show up for a meeting at 2 o'clock. They'll show up at 3:15. Okay. They won't support you. They'll drop a deal from you. That's the amateur. The professional, that never happens.
Right, and that comes back to the idea of, if you're a professional and you show up and they know you're a professional. In fact, I tend to say that success when you see it. Sometimes you can't articulate everything that goes with it, but you know it when you see it. And when a professional shows up, you just naturally want to do business with them. And then price is not even an issue then. It's like prices, you can't gouge somebody, but if you're charging a reasonable price for your product or service, and you're asking for a reasonable commission, you would, if the market's 5-6%, let's just say that's commissions, you don't charge 10%. You don't want to get a bad reputation, but you show up and you ask for ask your price. Price isn't even an issue for a professional.
Yeah, that's right. Price is a myth. Okay, there's a whole chapter about the price phenomenon. If the seller does not understand, if the agent does not understand that price is made up, completely made up. For instance, if you pay $25 for this book, what is the book worth? When somebody gives me $25 and I take the 25, I wanted their 25 more than I wanted my book, which means for me, the book was worth less than 25.
Right. And for me, if I bought the book, it's worth more than 25.
Otherwise, you would not trade me. Nobody trades equal value, ever.
Right.
Like, this is a game changer for the agent. So let's say the house is $5.6 million. By the way, in most markets today, except for a handful, the house will be overpriced. And it will still sell. It was underpriced 12 months ago, and it didn't sell.
Right.
Today in Miami, it's overpriced, and there will be 3 buyers. So whatever happened, happened. Okay,
right.
But that's where we're at. So when the guy says, hey, the $5.6 million is too much money, I'm saying, I understand, but I know price is made up. It's a complete myth. It's a complete made up phenomenon. This house has been sold 20 times. Every time it's been sold for more money. You could have bought it for $500,000 20 years ago, and then it was $1 million, then it was $1.5 million. Each time that price was completely fabricated, and I can prove it because of the last sale.
Right. Yeah.
So the agent needs to understand all numbers and all symbols are made up. The alphabet is made up. Okay. The word is W-O-R-D. It's completely made up. Somebody decided it's going to be W-O-R-D. It could have been D-R-O-W. And that's the way we would pronounce it if somebody had made up like that. Same thing with numbers and prices. 5.6 million, a bunch of zeros, the payment that comes with it, the interest rates account, all that is completely fabricated by man, which means in itself, if it was made up in its basic, then it can't be an objection because it was all made up.
Right.
Like, if you can wrap your head around this concept, that what they're complaining about is not true. When my tooth hurts in the back, and it hurts really bad, that shit real to me. I'm not asking how much it is to fix my tooth.
Right. You're going to get it fixed.
Get my pain, right? Because I don't care. I want to get rid of what's real, and I will trade unreal money.
Right.
The number, the $2,100 to fix it, I will trade the $2,100 to get it. If my kid needs a new bike or my kid's hurt, I will pay anything to get rid of the real pain. Those things are real, right? It's a sensation. So price is a myth, and unfortunately, to get certified as a real estate agent, you don't really get taught anything about sales, marketing, promotion, pricing, psychology, how people think, how they make decisions. And that's unfortunate. And that's why I'm so excited about working with you, because you're so committed to making sure your team, your partners have the best information available so they can be successful.
Oh, absolutely. And, and of course, Elena just took the exam, and I think I mentioned that she learned about riparian rights, which is like, nobody talks about riparian rights. It's like,
right.
But what you really need to learn is the inventory. And what's the construction materials? What's what happened in the previous inspection? What's going on? What's it going to take to get it up to code or whatever those things are? And then you're going to need to know how to help people do what it is that they already intended to do. Buyers intend to buy, sellers intend to sell. And as a real estate professional, our job is to help people do what they already intended to do. It's not our job to talk people in. I mean, in some cases it can be if it's in their best interest, but for the most part, in this business, it's really easy. People are looking to buy homes, and people are looking to sell homes. It's a really, really simple business.
Yeah, very, very much. And the more you understand about the what's going on.
Genuine scripts.
Yeah, and everybody's got to start somewhere. Nobody's going to know how to do this. Like, you're not born with this thing.
Right.
All of this can be developed. And look, one out of how many households have a real estate agent in them?
I think it's 1 out of every 64 households have a real estate agent.
And that every household has a piece of real estate. So
right.
We know people live in them. You got a commodity that you're selling that's not going to go away. You will always have buyers, you will always have sellers, and you will always have uncertainty. And to me, the real estate agent is not being paid for the transaction. The agent is being paid to eliminate the uncertainty. Because once I'm certain, I sell, and once I'm certain, I buy.
Right. A confused mind will always say no.
Exactly. It will always say no. It will always find out a reason to say no. It will never tell you the truth, by the way. A confused mind never tells the truth. Buyers are not liars. Confused minds are liars. They make up all these reasons why they don't because they're confused. If you're confused, how could you possibly tell me the price is too high? You wouldn't know. You'd be confused.
Right. Well, and some of the other things you hear about is that buyers are never loyal. Well, they're never loyal to amateurs, right?
That's
If
right.
you're a professional, yeah, if you're a professional, buyers will be incredibly loyal. If you're truly committed to your craft and your buyers know you're committed to being the best professional you can be in real estate, guess what? You don't need a buyer's agency agreement. You can have a handshake agreement and they're not going anywhere. And one of my lines that I used, or one of my scripts, or one of the things I developed was, I don't use a buyer's agency agreement. However, and the reason why I don't do that is if I ever drop the ball, it shouldn't be hard for you to go work with somebody else. So guess what? I never did. I never dropped the ball. And as long as I didn't, we had an unsaid agreement, which is that they wouldn't leave me just from having that conversation.
Yeah. I'm with you. I totally agree on that. And it's also about having a full pipeline, and about, like every real estate agent, when they're honest, knows that you sold a guy. A lady sold me a house in Los Angeles, never called me back. I didn't list it with her.
Mm-hmm.
Then she calls me, once we sell it, she calls me, why didn't you list it with me? I got you that house. I'm like, why didn't you call me back?
Right.
You didn't stay in touch with me. You don't come see me. You don't remind me. Out of sight, out of mind. I forgot about you.
Mm-hmm.
When I was ready to go, I didn't think, let me call the girl that sold me the house 8 years ago. And she did a good job, by the way. I just didn't think about you. I had other stuff going on.
Yeah, and within 6 to 12 months, the average consumer forgets the name of the real estate agent and firm. Within another year or so, they forget the firm that they bought it from because the agent didn't stay in touch and didn't stay top of mind, and yet it's not that difficult to do. So here in 2 weeks, I know we've got it on the calendar, but same time I think it's on the Thursday, the 22nd. We're gonna actually do a little bit of Q&A we're gonna have agents actually submit some questions as to that have read the book, things that are coming up for them. We'll come up with some other Q&A that we'll do ourselves in case we don't get a lot of questions. I'm sure we will, because our agents are going to be all over it. But we're going to do that on the 22nd. We've got some other things that we've got coming down the pipe, and I know we need to strategize and talk about, how do we get, agents access to things like Cardone University, which, by the way, I'm a student of Cardone University, but I signed up like a couple months ago, and I've been going through the sales portion of of that. So that's just amazing content that I know that our agents are going to really enjoy. And then I think you and I are going to do a fireside chat at our shareholder summit, and that's coming up in May.
Where is that, Glenn? I might fly in for that so I can be with you.
Well, we'll get you a virtual airplane that maybe we can land in the virtual airport. But yeah, we're actually not. We're going to make that happen, and we'll come visit you. You guys, it's not the weather's not quite where it needs to be. Once it gets hot, super hot in Miami, come up here. We're going to be San Juan Islands are right out my backyard. We'll do a little cruising.
Love it.
And we'll call it work.
Okay.
But we got so much stuff we've got on the horizon. Of course, I'm sure I'll see you in Clubhouse, and we have great banters. I think later on today you're doing something on Clubhouse too, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, I don't know. People tell me what to do now. I'm at a point where people are like, okay, now you're doing this.
Right.
So, it's interesting because I'm always playing and dabbling with all this technology, right? And people are like, how do you find time to do that? I said, because all the stuff that I dabble with is the number 1, 2, and 3 to me, most important things about building a business: promote, promote, and promote.
Right.
And so today, actually last night, I went on Twitter Spaces and I found out how to hit the button, and I realized I had it. So we had like 300 people on Twitter Spaces last night. This morning I did it. There was about 400 people on. That's the first 2 times. And literally Singapore, Malaysia, China was on there. I'm like, I didn't even know China had a Twitter. Like,
Oh, wow.
Dubai was on there, England was on there, all across the United States. And I think like that when Facebook comes out with theirs, this is just a way to promote and communicate and build community. And I know every one of those people are living in a house, probably living in a house somewhere.
Yeah, well, they at least have a phone. But
Yeah, exactly.
but so Twitter Spaces, is that Twitter's version of Clubhouse?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go check out.
They've been throttling me a little.
Right. Hey, I just lost your voice. I'm not sure what just happened there, Grant. I think, are you there? Oh, there you are.
I opened these. I
Oh,
was fidgeting.
well, with that, yeah, no, I'm going to go check out Twitter Spaces later on today. So, eXpers, find me on Twitter Spaces this afternoon sometime.
Yeah, but the point was not to promote Twitter, but look, you guys should always be looking for new ways to promote and create community.
Right.
Because everywhere a community creates, those people are all buyers. There's no such thing as a non-buyer. Every human being on planet Earth is going to buy something. If they buy any single product, if they buy a Twizzler, that makes them a buyer for a house at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Buyers are buyers.
Yeah, and we just need to help them get to where they can buy.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
And so our job is to help them in so many different ways. So let's go ahead and close out here. Looking really excited about getting back together for sure in 2 weeks. If we make this a weekly thing, I'm all in. We'll figure that out. Stay on here. I'm going to end the live stream